Election in India. So if you see election in India, then India received independence in 1947. So first election were conducted in 1952. So if you see the history of election in India, then generally it will be called from 1952 elections in India happened. Okay, but election in India is tightly coupled with democratic system in India. Okay, I call it a home rule. So election in India is directly coupled with the democratic system in India. If there is democracy in India, then certainly there will be parliament house, there will be presidential house, and there will be governor house in the state, and there will be kind of assembly house. Then only election can happen because the representative, the common man's representative, when once they are elected, then they would go to central assembly, that is parliament, or the kind of provincial assembly, that is the assembly building. So there they will go and they will assemble. So for election to happen, these buildings should be ready. Then only election can happen. So in 1952, first election happened in the independent India. But these buildings were ready in around 1920 only. The parliament and presidential house and governor house and then assembly. Why Britishers were interested in making these buildings? Okay, they were doing atrocities on Indians. So why they were interested? But they were interested. Okay, they were interested. That's why they founded Indian National Congress. Indian National Congress was founded by Britishers, not by Indians. So democratic system or home rule in India was concept of Britishers, not Indians. So Britishers, when they thought about home rule, they thought about home rule in India, home rule and democratic system. So they only built parliamentary house, assembly house, governor house, presidential house, and everything. So around 1920, the parliament and assembly houses were ready. If they were ready, then the concept of imperial or central was ready. Then if there were provincial assembly, then concept of provinces were ready. So when the first election of democracy happened in India, that is a big question. When Parliament House was ready, then when the first election happened in India? First election in India happened in 1920 itself. Can someone believe this? First election in India happened in 1920 itself. And there were two houses. So one is Central Assembly. That was in Delhi. That was designed by more or less architect Lutyens. Okay, some people call that he looted the country, but whatever. Architect Lutyens. So architect Lutyens was a high-powered architect. Means if someone is really kind of praisable, then it should be praised. What is his fault that he made it? Okay, he was given in charge only. So architect, but whatever he made, if you see the Parliament building and presidential building or Kingsway, all are exemplary. Means too good. Very nice he had made. So there is no error in that. Okay, error can be the system what we are talking about. But as far as architect is concerned, he was marvelous, he was amazing. Means people would remember him, Lutyens. Okay, anyway, now in 1920, when everything was ready, so 1920, the first provincial election, first central assembly election and provincial elections happened in 1920, then 23, I believe, then 26, 1930, then I believe 34, and then 1945. So this time the election happened, but in 1934. Okay, so if I see the dates when the kind of election happened, the 1920, 1923, 1926, 1930, and 1934 and 1945. So these are the years when the Central Assembly election happened. Provincial election happened in 1920. So both election happened in 1920. 1923, so both elections happened in 1923. 1926, both happened. So imperial or central assembly election and provincial election happened in 1926. 1930 and 34, only the central assembly election happened. So in 34, so in 36 there were division of Bihar and Orissa province, and Orissa came out of Bihar and Orissa province. Rather, I say Bihar province. Orissa came out of it in 1936. So in 1934, the provincial election did not happen in 1926 also. So 1937, provincial election happened in the country. Okay, and then in 1945, the central assembly and provincial assembly election both happened in 1945. Okay, so in 1920, there were, so in the central assembly or imperial assembly, there, or the parliament what we see now, I mean it's not the new parliament, the existing parliament, what we see now, there are two chambers, upper chamber and lower chamber. Now it is called upper house and lower house, or locally it is called Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. So Lok Sabha is lower house and Rajya Sabha is upper house, upper chamber and lower chamber. So upper chamber election happens through different way. So in upper chamber in 1920, okay, so if you see the upper chamber in 1920, then there were around 34. Okay, so upper chamber there were around 34 seats. So where kind of it was reserved for white people also, 3 seats I believe, and it was reserved for Muslims, it was reserved for Sikh, and it was one seat was reserved for United Province people. United Province means now it is Uttar Pradesh, Awadh, Agra, these provinces. For that one seat was reserved in the upper chamber. Okay, Rajya Sabha. In the lower chamber, there were 104 seats. Out of 104 seats, 34 seats were reserved for the Europeans or white people. So that was the construction of that was the structure of the central province. Okay, I mean central assembly. Provincial assembly, there were, I believe, around 800 or 900 seats were there. Now, in 19 provincial assembly, there were 637 seats. So, in the provincial assembly in 1920, there were around 637 seats, and 388 seats were reserved for white people. So, half seat in the around half seat in the provincial assembly and half seat in the central assembly. So, in the Vidhan Sabha, now it is called Vidhan Sabha. So in the provincial assembly, again there were two things: provincial assembly and council, assembly of council. So assembly of council is now it is called Vidhan Parishad, member of legislative assembly. They represent the council, whereas assembly, the net provincial assembly is represented by MLA, member of legislative assembly and member of legislative council. So assembly and council. Like that, in the central assembly, the upper house, upper chamber and lower chamber. So upper chamber is represented as Rajya Sabha and lower chamber is represented as Lok Sabha. Here, the council is represented as Vidhan Parishad and the assembly is represented as Vidhan Sabha. So same thing, whatever 1920 is taken, I mean this is the structure of democratic system in England, rather than this is what I would say. So exactly same replica was brought in India also through party called Indian National Congress. Same party existed in Britain called India Parliamentary Party. So India Parliamentary Party existed in England. Same proxy was made in India called Indian National Congress. So all the democratic system building and everything was constructed by Britishers. And half of the seat what we are saying in the Lok Sabha and Vidhan Sabha, where means in the central assembly and provincial assembly were reserved around for the white people. I won't say this is because they wanted to control over the India, but this was required to control over the business, because end idea was to earn the money from the India. Okay, so in 1920, Democratic Party was the one party that won the election with the 48 seats in the Central Assembly. 1923, Swaraj Party, it won the election, where number of seats increased to 145 to 104. Central assemblies were like, okay, now the country, now the in Indian subcontinent, it was covering the country like Pakistan, Bhutan, Burma, and Bangladesh. So these are the countries that came under Central Assembly. And the assembly, the parliament was in Delhi, New Delhi, architectured by Mr. Luthier. Okay, now the provincial assembly. This is Central Assembly consisted these many countries now. Now the provincial assembly were like Assam, Bengal, Bihar and Orissa together. And then central province, it is called Madhya Pradesh now. Bombay, Madras, okay, Punjab, United Province. So these are the province that existed in 1920. Okay. Now in 1923 election happened. 1926 also the central province and central assembly and provincial assembly both election happened in 1926 also, and Swaraj party won the central assembly. In 1920 only one election happened, that is central assembly. 1934 also one election happened in central one. So 1920 it was boycotted by Indian National Congress. So they boycott the election in 1920. Okay, but the winner was Nationalist Party. It won 40 seats. The total number of seats were reduced to 104. In 1926, 105, whereas in 1923 it was raised to 145. So Central Assembly was spanning over Pakistan, Bhutan, okay, Burma and Bangladesh also. So that is the scenario. Now in 1934, that is the most crucial election happened. So in 1934, Indian National Congress, it took part in the election. Okay, one side they are saying that we are chasing Britishers, and other side they are contesting election under the guidance of Britishers. That is called sharing of the power. In technology, it is called ramping up. So whatever the new technology that came as home rule and democratic system, if you are contesting election means you are ramping up in the democratic system. Okay, so in 1934 they participated in the election and they won 42 seats out of 148 seats. So they were victorious. So Indian National Congress potentially they become the prime minister candidate in 1934 itself. So whatever election we are seeing, it happened in 1934 itself, and Indian National Congress was the winner. And in 1934, the provincial elections did not happen. It happened in 1937 instead, where Orissa came out of the Bihar. And in many provinces, many states, Indian National Congress won. So in Bihar, and Indian National Congress sweep the province. And Sri Krishna Babu, he became the premier or chief minister of Bihar in 1937 itself. So, what is the concept of independence in 1947 that I don't understand? What is concept of Satyagraha and Quit India movement and this movement and that movement that was founded by Mr. Gandhi that I don't. One side you are participating in election, your chief ministers are coming in all the provinces, you are completely aligned with the Britishers. Then how you change Britishers in 1947? That is a big question. So in 1934, the Central Assembly election, Congress won. In 1937, the provincial election, many assemblies, Congress won. And in Bihar, Sri Babu, he became the chief minister or premier of Bihar in 1937 itself. Okay, now if I see 1934, the provinces that existed in 1934 were, okay, so where Assam, Ajmer, Merwada, Bengal, Bihar and Orissa in 34, Bombay, Burma, Central Province, Delhi, Madras, Northwest Frontier Province, Punjab and United Province. So few new provinces that came in 1934, or rather in 1930 itself. So in 1930, so these many provinces came, but in 1937 election, okay, okay, now this is the condition of 1930 and 1934 election. These were, so Burma was there. In the 1934 election, Burma province was there. Now in 1937, provincial election happened, and for each province there was a party which won, and there was premier or chief minister of that state. Okay, now the central election happened in 1945. In 1945, the Central Assembly election happened, and that is considered as the turning point in the Indian history. So in 1945, the Central Election Assembly election that happened in 1945. Okay, so there, okay, and at that time Burma was not. So Burma from 1934 to 1945, in between Burma left. Now in 1945, uh, the the central province election, 1945, Indian National Congress won 57 seats, whereas All India Muslim League won 30 seats and total were 102 seats. White people, they were also winning as per the reservation. So out of 102 seats, 57 seats went to Indian National Congress and 30 seats went to All India Muslim League. This is the place where Muslim League said if we can win 30 seats out of 10 seats, then we have full right to go for different country. Okay, I will never say that this makes sense. Okay, but this is how it was. So since All India Muslim League that won 30 seats out of 10 seat, 2 seat in 1945 Central Assembly election, then it claimed for the different country at all. In 1946, the provincial assembly election that were conducted. In 1946, in the provincial assembly election, the net the the seat that was won by Congress was 923 seats in all the provinces, whereas All India Muslim League won 445 seats, 425 seats. So it became quite clear that the region in which the Muslim League is winning, like Bangladesh region or Pakistan region, so those regions should be now, that should be segregated, that should be alienated to a different country. Because Muslim League, since they are whole soul, they are representing these areas in Central Assembly, these areas in Provincial Assembly, okay, because they have now 425 seats. So 425 seats, it clearly indicates that if they don't, they represent a certain chunk of area, okay, independent. Okay, there is no parallel to them, and they want separate country. So in 1945-46 election, it became quite clear that country will be divided into two parts. But it became in many parts. Bhutan went away, and then Burma went away in between. Sri Lanka also, it is not, I am not showing it, but it is kind of separated. Only thing to separate was Pakistan and Bangladesh. So with the 1945 and 46 election, that also, okay, it became clear that it would go away. So this is the kind of concept of central assembly and provincial assembly and their elections, and then becoming the chief minister and those kind of. Okay, now you tell me the what is the concept of 1947 independence? When everything 1947 independence in the sense that country got divided into many parts. So 1947 is the day, is the time duration in which country became many parts officially. Otherwise, there is no difference as far as democratic system is concerned. Everything is same. Same parliament, same assembly house, same governor, same MLC, same MLA, same MP, and same Rajya Sabha, Lok Sabha. Everything is same. Same SC, ST Act that came in 1931. Everything is same. Okay. Only change is that the area of the India became Indian subcontinent, or South Asian country. So in 1947, we did not gain anything. We lost everything. So this is rather dependency on Britishers than independence. Because if you are very big, then your economy and everything is powerful. When you are very small, then you are not powerful. Your economy. That's why 1 rupee was $1 in 1940. India was big. So now India has full employment. Now in 1947, when they become small, so 1947 they did not become independent. 1947, the small India became dependent on actually on British.